I am at a restaurant with my husband. I do not talk to the hostess. I do not open any doors, and I do not order my own food.
This is not feminine energy. This is pathetic. This is infantilizing, gender essentialist slop. These types of content creators are trying to romanticize sexism and oppression. They want you to find it romantic and consider it princess treatment that your husband doesn't let you work a job or speak to the waiter. She has another video where she says she doesn't tie her own shoes. You are not a baby or a princess. You are a capable adult woman. These types of content creators are trying to convince you to stop acting like a human being and start acting like an ornament. I genuinely find it gross. I'm grossed out. Do not let anybody convince you that that is a life to aspire to.
Hey ladies, welcome back to the show. This is Nava, and I wanted to come on here and talk to you ladies about this princess treatment lady that is going viral. I don't know if you have heard about her or not, but I could not get a copy of the original video, so I'll just be showing y'all some clips. Basically, it's this lady who is a housewife, and she's explaining how she acts in a restaurant or in certain situations with her husband, how she considers princess treatment to be. Y'all, I really think this is just like a MAGA lady being pushed onto us by TikTok to make women stupid. I really feel like they are trying everything that they can to get women back in the house and to be like mindless, brainless dummies like this lady. She said that she goes to the restaurant. She doesn't speak to the waiter staff or anybody. She just lets her husband take care of everything, the valet, the reservations. He gets to order her food. She doesn't speak. She just doesn't make eye contact with anybody. It's kind of like she's just explaining like a kidnapped victim, like a victim that's being abused pretty much. But I'm not going to talk about it a lot. I'm going to get into some of these stitches about what people are saying about this lady, and I will be right back.
Who worked in bars and restaurants for many years, if a man and a woman are sitting at a table and the man orders for her, I'm ignoring him, I'm looking her directly in the eyes and I'm saying, what can I get for you, ma'am? What would you like? We need to quickly snap out of this idea that somehow making ourselves as small as possible is in any way empowering for us. Yes, I'm talking about the princess treatment lady. Part of her advice to women was to not speak unless spoken to.
Huh?
We are being propagandized to so aggressively that somehow we're telling each other that we should be seen and not heard. What are we doing? I fear we need to go back to Female Empowerment 101 and start pinning cringy ass posts on Pinterest again, like well-behaved women never made history, and what if I fall, but oh darling, what if you fly? We need to go back to basics. Because what do you mean we are now getting on the internet and as women telling each other that we need to be silent, rude, and frankly awkward in public in order to be princesses? Princess treatment? You mean 14-year-old girls who were married off to 40-year-olds in the name of political alliances? They had no real power. They were raped and then beheaded. Stand up. Stop depending on a man for everything. Girls, I beg you, stop listening to this bullshit. It has done nothing for us except keep men in power for hundreds of years.
When I think of princesses, I think of Lady Diana. I think a lot of us, our first association with the word princess is Princess Diana. Here's the thing about Princess Diana. She was a good fucking person. She treated other people like human beings, no matter who they were. She advocated on behalf of minorities and marginalized groups. She did things consistently for those minorities and marginalized groups that pissed off the royal family. And when they reprimanded her, she doubled down. She was brave. She was kind. She was honest. She was a good human being. She was an activist, okay? She held herself with decorum, not because it made her look good, but because she wanted to, right? I am the child of restaurateurs. My grandfather owned small businesses. He owned a little fish restaurant. He owned a pizzeria in Newark, New Jersey. My dad took over his restaurant after he passed away. My entire life has been spent around people who work in the service industry. Hear me when I say there are no harder working people than wait staff, than busboys, than bartenders, than hostesses, than people who work in the service industry. I will get emotional. There is no job that I respect more than a job in the service industry. If you've never done it, you would wouldn't understand. It is my personal belief that everybody should work in a restaurant at least one time in their life so that they can understand. And every single child that I ever have will work at a restaurant at some point in their life. It is mandatory to me to function in this world, to work at a restaurant. You could work the craziest, bougiest 9 to 5. I don't care. I still believe working in a restaurant in a service position is one of the hardest jobs that you could ever work, one of the most demanding, and it deserves the most respect. So to say I demand princess treatment, so when I go to a restaurant, I ignore the wait staff and ignore the hostess, is a fucking abomination. You should feel horrible about yourself. I'm genuinely concerned. That's not okay, and frankly, that's not what a princess would do. A princess would smile, a princess would be respectful, a princess would make conversation, a princess would acknowledge other people as human beings, even if they work under her. Because Princess Diana likely had people in service working under her, technically, but I bet you she treated every last one of them with respect. And that's what a princess would do. And every single time I come on this app and I see another fucking TRADwife, you guys make me so mad. So mad.
Basically, she's saying when she with her man, she want her brain turned off. But my problem is, I don't mind my man opening my door for me. I don't mind my man ordering for me. But when you say that you won't make eye contact with the people that are serving you, you won't even have small talk with them. Like if it's raining and your husband had to run to go park the car, you won't even have a little small talk with them. And she said when she goes to these places, the servers and waitresses or whatever is looking at her, they're asking her questions and she's redirecting them to her husband and like refusing to speak to them. And I'm just like, ma'am, to each his own, but that's a bit much for me.
I'm at a restaurant with my husband. I do not talk to the hostess. I do not open.
I had to come on here and weigh in on one of the most disturbing things I've seen on this app in a very long time, which is the princess treatment video. Nothing is more toxic to me than the idea that, like, in order to get what you want as a woman, you have to be so soft and feminine. And that in order to be feminine, you have to be subservient and submit to your partner. That is so, like, 1600s. You can get what you want by working hard, achieving, communicating, being a thoughtful, good person.
If the waiter addresses you first, I will simply just look at my husband and then my husband will order. Again, you don't need to exert yourself. You can be feminine and soft.
That's baseline. I don't really tie my shoes. He does that for me. Like if there's any sort of like,
it's not a coincidence that we're being fed this kind of content at the same time that the government is stripping away our reproductive rights. They are trying to make oppression and sexism seem aspirational. They want a new generation of young women to think that it's a good thing, actually, that the government has taken away their right to control their own lives and bodies.
She doesn't even make eye contact with the staff when she walks into the room. Her husband does all that. To her saying that, part of that feminine energy or femininity, whatever she phrased it as, to be, you don't have to speak unless you're spoken to. So let's talk about that real quick. So there's a huge intersection between domestic violence and human trafficking, because a lot of times the trafficker can be the survivor's like husband or boyfriend or whoever it might be, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of trainings that, educators like myself do, where we tailor the training to be how to respond if you suspect somebody is a survivor of domestic violence. So that training might be tailored specifically for law enforcement, to medical staff, because there's literally no way in whatever profession you're in that you don't come across a survivor. You might not know they're a survivor, but there's no way you've never come across a survivor in your line of work. So part of that training is recognizing what are some signs that somebody might be in an abusive relationship or might be a victim of trafficking, right? And how to go about that, without tipping off the abuser or potential abuser, right? So part of that training is realizing who in their dynamic looks like they don't have autonomy, right? So let's say you're like your nurse, right? And somebody comes in with an injury and you're asking the person with the injury, hey, what's going on? And the other person interjects and say, oh, well, they fell, or we were playing around and this happened, right? And you ask this person, oh, okay, well, where were you? And the person else that's there with them interjects and says, oh, well, we were in the room. And it's like, you know what I mean? Or, you're a wait staff, right? and you're asking somebody their order, and before they respond, look at their partner. Like, you can't tell me what you want. You know what I mean? Like, and I know some of y'all are thinking, oh, wow, like, you know, this is just like princess treatment. You know, this is just somebody who's letting their man lead or whatever it is. But that's also what it's like when an abuser or trafficker is with their person they're trafficking. You know what I mean? So, like, that should raise some concern for some people. I think the misconception there is the belief that abuse only happens in the home and that abusers don't take their survivors out of the house. But sometimes the abuse does get to the point where there's injury and they have to go to the hospital. Sometimes the abuser wants to go out to eat somewhere and they bring the survivor with them, right? So, like, these are some times you can recognize or possibly recognize that somebody in your profession, in your restaurant, in your office is a victim. Whatever content you choose to follow, whatever pipeline you want to go down, whatever seems like princess treatment for you, I can't tell you what to do. You know what I mean? I think you just at least look at these things with an open mind. But I will leave with this story though. When I was in my early 20s, before I even got into this field of work, I used to go to this gym, and there was a couple in the gym, and sometimes the girl wouldn't even work out. She's just there with him. I mean, she's in there with like jeans, sandals on, like she's there clearly not gonna work out, and she's just there with her boyfriend. I'm assuming it's her boyfriend while he's working out, right? And some of y'all again are gonna think, oh my God, her man. She wants to be around him. She wants to be under his skin. Hey, whatever you perceive that to be, you know what I mean? And one day, it was like nighttime. They were there in the gym again. She was not working out at all. They left before me, and like, you know, after they left, I was leaving the gym too. And as I'm leaving the gym, mind you, like the gym is on like a back street, right? So there's like no street lights. As I'm leaving the gym, my headlights flash, and I see her sitting on the curb on the floor. Her boyfriend not around. Like, she's on the curb, and like in the exit of the street, just sitting there. So, like, I'm like, that's strange. So, I mean, I just drove past, but then I'm like, nah, ain't no way. Like, there's no way. So I come back around, and I, like, pull up next to her slowly, and I'm trying not to be creepy, because, you know, it's still nighttime, and this is a woman, like, in the middle of the street by herself. I roll my window down, I'm like, hey, are you okay? She's like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm like, you sure? It's, like, dark out here, and you're sitting here with no phone, like, just sitting there. She's like, yeah, I'm okay. Huh? I didn't say that, but I'm just like, nah, there's something going on here. But like, hey, I just left. But you can't tell me that that's a normal interaction between a couple. You can't tell me that.
As someone who's worked in food service, if I encountered the princess treatment lady, if I'm serving you and you don't acknowledge me at all, you're just instantly a rude person. If you don't acknowledge the host girl coming in, you're a rude person. It is just simple etiquette to acknowledge the people who are working hard to make sure you have a good time, and to confine yourself to these invisible prisons where you feel like you can't laugh loudly and you're shaming other women for being loud. It's just rude, and it's not the flex that she thought it was.
Is describing this kind of treatment as princess treatment, but this to me looks like the patriarchy in full effect. Women being seen and not heard, women only speaking when being spoken to. This woman is being dragged all over the internet because she sees this treatment as princess treatment, but from the outside looking in, it looks like somebody who wants to be dominated and controlled. And if that's what you're into, have at it. But this is not what princess treatment looks like for most women. When we think princess treatment, we think being spoiled. We think being listened to, being heard, being respected, being valued, being treated well. We don't think about the idea that you can't even speak to a server. You can't smile. You can't speak until your man speaks for you. This to me is no different than the video that I posted yesterday about the woman saying that she wears a day collar to show her husband when he comes home that she's being submissive. Now, this woman seems to be a bit more affluent. She's going to Michelin star restaurants. She's going on nice vacations and all of that. But to me, her collar is invisible. It's still there, though. I totally understand women who want their man to take the lead. You want him to talk to the valet. You want him to talk to the parking lot attendant. You want him to order for you because you think it's very cute, very sexy. But there's a difference between that and you not even being able to speak to a server. You not smiling to a server. You not speaking unless he speaks for you. Like, are you a hostage or a princess? Princess treatment could look very different depending on the woman, but if you like your princess treatment with just a hint of patriarchy, this is exactly what it looks like.
That's not princess treatment. That's just being a bitch. Like, you're actually just being rude to the waitstaff and weird and, like, antisocial. That's bizarre behavior. And, like, there were women in the comments who were like, oh my god, yes, like, we just have to tap into our feminine energy. That is not feminine energy. That's not princess treatment. That's being rude. And, like, it's also weird that you expect that your husband is the only one interacting. I don't know. Like, that's odd to me. And, like, it's also strange to call this princess treatment, because if you were an actual princess, you would have some level of decorum. Princesses are polite and understand proper etiquette. You're just being a bitch to the waitstaff and calling it princess treatment. And in the comments, this girl was like, oh my god, but it's just like so fun to act like a princess. And it's like, no, you're just being rude. And of course this woman was white. And it's just like, I don't know. I feel like servers and like people in the service industry have it hard enough as it is because, you know, they're making like less than minimum wage in a lot of states. And then they're just being treated like they're invisible. That's so rude. And like, I'm sorry, but that is not princess treatment. You are just a bitch.
She cannot convince me that there is joy in her life. The video very much sounds like a prisoner trying to convince me that the food in jail is really good. I want to compare it to like, okay, my mom loves a task. Have you seen those videos of people that like love cleaning? Or the women who like make food from scratch? Like you can tell when somebody enjoys and they take that bite or like they share it with their family. And you can see the joy or like the feeling of like accomplishment or something. If you watch that woman's other videos where she's like, I've been promoted to housewife these past 6 months, my 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. shift. And let me tell you something, running a household, being a stay-at-home mom, that is work. That is a hard motherfucking job. Managing everybody's schedules and keeping everything, you know, clean and everybody safe and happy and fed, whatever, that's work. Like, no one's denying that. But it's just this, like, it's like being, like, it's rigid. It's gray and it's rigid. And it feels like, I wanted to compare it to, like, nuns, but I think I've seen and met nuns that talk more passionately about their love of Christ and the commandments than this woman does about her life. It seems as though she needs everything to be very routine for her to feel a sense of like accomplishment or peace and calm. And I gotta be honest with you, her life looks like punishment almost. It's very odd.
So this lady's example of princess treatment at a restaurant is going to the restaurant with her husband and basically just not communicating at all with the waitstaff or the host staff. He orders her drinks, he orders her dinner. Basically, she's just mute. She gave an example that if he was to go park the car, she wouldn't even go up to the host stand to tell them about the reservation because he made the reservation. So then she goes to make a point that she's doing this not because she thinks she's better than them, but because in her brain, this is allowing her man to lead. How is you not having manners allowing your man to lead? You're telling me that you don't say hi to these people. You're telling me that you don't speak to these people. You just walk into this establishment and anything they say, you just look at your man. Ma'am, would you like water? Would you like lemon with your water? Hello, ma'am. Like, I really like hearing that. I told that woman to blink on her motherfucking video because, ma'am, are you safe? And on another note, there are some couples who that is exactly how they operate and that is perfectly fine for them. But in my opinion, I don't look at that as my man leading. There is a lot of things that I do as a female and take a step back and stand in my female energy to allow my man to lead. But to sit there and act like I can't speak because in my brain I'm allowing my man to lead is crazy. If we in the motherfucking woods and my man say run, I'ma run. That's letting his ass lead. I ain't gonna question him. I ain't gonna look back. I ain't gonna say nothing. You say run, baby, which way? That's it. But to go to a restaurant and not speak to people because in your heart of hearts you believe that you're allowing your man to lead is fucking delusional.
Princess treatment lady hasn't come to terms with the fact that she's being abused, so she's trying to normalize it and show you how to have a healthy marriage, okay? Because when she's a princess and lets her husband lead, she can't get screamed at for doing things wrong. because he's doing it. He's taking the lead. He's giving step-by-step instructions, and she's just standing there. And that's why she's so frail. People who feel like they have no control in their lives restrict their eating. But people it's like Stockholm syndrome, right? You turn things around in your mind like, no, my husband isn't abusive and trying to make everything bad for me. He just wants to make it so I don't have to be in charge of anything, okay? And he just gets frustrated when I do it wrong because he's a leader. She's just deep in. She doesn't, like, she probably really thinks she's not in an abusive relationship. She just thinks her husband's a little hard or whatever. Like, it can take a really long time for people to unpack that and actually accept the fact that they were abused.
With the princess treatment video, that's a fetish video, and I feel like you guys don't realize that. Because what are you doing going out in public with your husband and subjecting other people to the weird situation that's within their relationship? And like, I think it's strange, I'm not into it, but it's also her choice, and that's what I want to talk about. I've been seeing a lot of videos lately where women are like judging other women's behavior, and like judgment is fine, but like passing the judgment is wrong. Like Bonnie Blue, she was doing that whole like pet farm cemetery thing, whatever it was, and all these people are like, there's no way that she wants to do this, she's setting feminism back. And it's like Sabrina Carpenter, like, no. In fact, I've been lurking in the comments, and this person's like, this sets women back 50 years, and I'm like, how is one woman's choice able to set feminism back that many years? Like, you're making that choice, you're saying that this is true when it's not. You're creating a false reality. You're saying, oh, because this one woman likes to be treated that way, it's okay for all men to approach you and treat you this way, which is the same thing that people do to survivors of abuse. They'll say like, what was she wearing? Kind of like, oh, some women like it, so all women like not all women like to be choked. Like, but like, you know what I mean? Like, if a man sees one thing and sees like one woman that he's with like to be choked, he goes around choking everyone that he meets. That's like fucking bizarre. And you guys are just like co-signing it, being like, no, it's true. Like, one woman's actions do not speak for all women. And again, I've said this before, I think it's a very white woman. You guys are thinking of women as a monolith, and that's just not the case. Anyways, I'm going to this woman's comments, and obviously she's deleting a lot of comments and it's making people very mad, but people are going to subsequent videos being like, how's the beach? How's your life? Your life sucks. And like making all these like crappy comments for what? You can't let her live her life? Like, is this where we're at now? Like, you don't have a right to hate tradwives just because they're living their lives the way that they want to. Like, if that's what they want to do, if they want to be fools, like, that's their choice. That's their prerogative. No, everyone doesn't want to be a hairy-legged lesbian like you are, babe. Sorry. I won't show you my legs because you already know. Just becoming very problematic to me. And people get very angry. I saw an interview again of that Bonnie Blue woman or whatever her name was. And the woman was so mean to her. Being like, your parents don't care about you. No one in your life loves you. Like, no, she's hypersexual and definitely something weird's going on. For sure. We all know that. But what does it have to do with you, babe? Nothing. Actually nothing. And the fact that you think it does is part of the problem, because you're perpetuating a problem by saying that because one person does it, it's okay for us all. Right? I feel like you guys need to get this into your thick skulls. Right? It's just very hard to watch. It's like, oh, women can make whatever choices they want, but then when women make choices that you guys don't like, you get really upset about it and you're pissed. Like that lady with the cowboy boots who was like, she won't tell me where she got her boots. It's about consent. You guys seem to not understand consent, which makes me think, oh, no wonder why men don't get it, because you don't seem to get it either. Well, last thing I want to say, I used to work as a server for years. It's very strange when you do that and it looks like you're being abused. It could be like nothing further than what you are hoping to present as a princess. That's why I say it's a fetish, because it really only operates between the two of them. Because nobody else is thinking that. Everyone else is thinking about how poorly adjusted you are, poor your social skills are, which might be that of a princess. And why are we focusing on being princesses? They were treated awfully. And like, I think you guys got obsessed with like the princess in the pea. Like, she's so sensitive. She can't even sleep. She's annoying. And she has poor coping skills. That's what a princess is to me. Also, any man who's like, my little princess, like, what? Are you underage? What's going on? Figure it out.
Question that I'm getting about princess treatment. If you go out to dinner and your husband orders you something because he is going to order for you, orders you something that you're allergic to, what do you do? Telling him that you're allergic to it or that you would prefer something else would be very emasculating, so you're not going to say anything. If you go into anaphylaxis and you have your EpiPen on you, I would not use it. I would simply die. Using an EpiPen at a restaurant is not going to look very feminine. It's going to cause a lot of attention. People are going to be looking at you. You're going to take the focus away from your husband. Really, at the end of the day, the most feminine thing that you can be is dead.
And all of the comments were like, hey, you're being held hostage. And she was like, no, I'm a princess. Yeah, girl, Rapunzel, you are locked up in that tower. And like everything she said to justify the princess treatment became more unbelievable than the next thing. Like, what do you mean you're not allowed to order your own food? What do you mean you're not allowed to look at people in the eyes? And then what do you mean when the girls in the comments are like, hey mama, that's a little bit iffy. She's like, no, it's princess treatment, you wouldn't get it. And like, it's just something my husband and I do. Yeah, okay, that's totally cool. Sometimes I really do feel bad for people. Why are you only allowed to show vitality to your husband? You know what I mean? Like, it's weird. And also, like, ugh, I'm sick of the eating disorders online. I'm sick of the entitlement online. I'm sick of the fucking... I can't even. Am I gonna get canceled?
Another huge part of the princess treatment is, I don't know if we specifically talked about this, but the over need to like talk and fill space. Like, you don't need to talk unless you are spoken to. And then if you are spoken to and asked, you could just say, oh, I'm just waiting for my husband, and then he'll be able to give the reservation. Or you can say, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm not sure. My husband will be back, and then you can ask him. You can say it in a very soft and feminine way.
Wow, that's a lot of misogyny and patriarchy wrapped up in a pretty little bow. So this video of hers is very long, so I'm not going to go over all of it. I'm seeing a lot more of this right-wing conservative content coming on this app, as if in order to be feminine, you have to be quiet, you have to be meek. It's something that we used to see in my grandmother's Good Housekeeping booklet, where I used to say something like, when your husband comes home from work, don't bother him with your problems. Don't ask him about his day. Bring him a martini and just smile and be his happiness. That's a load of bull crap. If your husband requires you to be meek, quiet, and not speak to anybody in order to feel like a man, then there's something wrong with your man. I don't want anybody on this app confusing misogyny and princess treatment, because that is not princess treatment. Sure, my husband driving me up to the restaurant when it's freezing cold out because I'm in Minnesota, yeah, that's princess treatment. I love that he does that for me all the time. But guess what? Me speaking up and saying, hey, we have a reservation at 4 o'clock, that's not me taking away his man card. Women like this that promote the narrative that in order to be feminine, you must be quiet, not have a voice, is disrespectful to women and shameful. Because you can still be in your feminine energy and still speak up and say what you want and what you need.
Let's talk about princess treatment when I am voting. So when I'm voting for president, I shouldn't actually have to vote. That is my husband's job. So when we get to the voting office, I shouldn't have to look at anybody. So I do wear the satin blindfold. And then when they ask me for my driver's license, I just have to look at my husband, and he will reach into my pocket and he will take out my driver's license, and then he will pass it over. When the voting person says, is this you? I just kind of do this and I do this. And then my husband says, yes, that is her. Now, when they hand me the voting packet, I shouldn't have to read it. So we will actually step outside and he will read it for me. But keep in mind, when he is reading it, I will stand about 1 foot behind him. After he's read the whole voting packet for me, I will go back in and I will take the packet to the voting booth. My husband is not allowed in the voting booth, and that is where I am sure to make no eye contact with anyone else. So I will then vote, and it's really difficult when my husband cannot do it for me, but there are some things that as a princess, you actually have to do yourself. After I finish the voting, I am exhausted and I do faint. I do have my husband take me back to the car, and then he will return to the voting booth and he will pick up my voter packet, and then he will return it for me. So I hope that helps.
Woman just says out loud, yeah, oh my goodness, because I literally have to do all of the mental brain power around here to make this relationship work. When we go out on date night, I have to put additional mental brain power into pretending to ignore and be oblivious to everything around me so that my husband can play pretend leader and feel like a man. This is the definition of a healthy marriage, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my God! You can't make this shit up!
I'd like to see the lady who's talking about receiving princess treatment from her husband.
To go park the car, or he's gonna go exchange whatever he needs to do with the valet. You're just gonna stand in the lobby or whatever the space is, and you're gonna wait for your husband to come back. You're not gonna go up to the hostess and give the reservation name. You're not gonna talk to her. This isn't out of like a, I'm better than them and I don't need to talk to them and I don't need to.
But see, people are going to perceive it as such. They are going to think that you think you're better than everyone else. There's a bunch of discourse around this topic. My only issue with this whole princess treatment thing is it could be perceived as like just being rude. Like you're not even looking at the hostess. You're not looking at the waiter. People are probably like, yo, what is up with this lady? She thinks I'm like dirt. And not only that, I think people around you may think that there might be a DV situation. And unfortunately, a lot of people in the restaurant industry are treated really poorly by customers. And that's a completely unfortunate thing, right? I know a lot of people aspire to be treated like this and be a stay-at-home mom. And I hope that if you aspire to be like this, you get that. But I just think it can be a little bit over the top if you aren't going to actually acknowledge the people around you. But
that
that's
white
just
woman who's going viral for explaining that her version of princess treatment when she's with her husband is that, like, when they go out, she doesn't touch anything, she doesn't like look at the waitstaff, she doesn't talk to them, like he does everything. That is a perfect example of the direction that this country is moving into, and I don't mean that in a good way. It started off with the like, oh, get you a man you can turn your brain off when you're with him, and get you a man who like will make all the decisions for you, and like, let's go back to being stay-at-home moms, let's go back to being a stay-at-home wife, or like, oh, I'm just a girl. Like, all those things seem very insignificant when they're happening. But as we all know, as far as culture and like large scale shifts go, things start small and then the pendulum starts swinging. And right now our pendulum is swinging into a very conservative direction. We about to end up right back where we were in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And this time we're asking for it. Now everybody wants someone who can make all the decisions for them, and you don't want to think about him. You want him to have all the money, and you don't want to have to work, and all that is fine, and it's understandable, and it would be cool if it ended there. But it doesn't end there. That's how it starts. The whole like, oh, women being seen and not being heard, and like you just show up and look cute and everything just happens around you and you just sit there, would be cute if that was it. If that's where it ended, then it would be fine. But that's not how things go. There's nothing cute about not making your own decisions. There's nothing cute about giving up your autonomy piece by piece by piece. There's nothing cute about that. And again, all these things sound very insignificant when they're happening, because of course we all want a man who's going to provide, and we want someone who can take care of us, and that is good and that's understandable. But it's getting to a point. That's all I'm gonna say. It's getting.
I don't know. I don't think that princesses, even in Disney movies, had like as good as a life as we all think they did. Like, all the princesses I know of had to suffer or go through hell, and then a prince would come and save them. I guess that's what Disney was trying to teach us. Like, you got to go through hell with your family, with the men in your life, with witches that you don't even know. Women have got to suffer some kind of way before they can be happy and have this prince of a man come and save them, which is delusional, because in real life, we all know that does not happen most of the time. The man, her husband, he sounds like he's abusive. But I know, I've seen The Little Mermaid, and I know Ariel, she was a mammy, she was a pick-me, because she left her home for a whole man that she didn't even know, and she gave up her voice, gave up her ability to swim, she gave up everything for a man that she didn't even know. That was crazy. Tiana, the only black princess that I know of, if y'all know of another one besides Hallie or Haley, let me know. She let me down in real life. Like, she did, y'all. I'm not going to even lie, but she let me down. Tiana, she had to kiss a frog, and she also had to turn into a frog. And then in the end, she still didn't get a fairy tale, y'all. She hired him to work in her restaurant, and she had to keep working. I think that was a true story, and that lady had to keep working. So he was a dusty, and she was doing better than him in the end, and she helped him out, which is, like, I guess, a true story of most black women, like struggle love. Y'all are always trying to help men out. Snow White, she had a contract put on her heart, and she had to live with 7 dusty men so she wouldn't get killed. Like, none of these stories seem appealing, so I don't know why we are still like living in La La Land. Belle, she got locked in a castle with a beast. He had an attitude. He was talking shit the whole time. So she pretty much had Stockholm syndrome. And she was like, I don't know, she may or may not have committed bestiality. Pocahontas, man, he was trying to kill her and her people and her whole family. Like, I don't know, y'all. Anna, she grew up alone and isolated. Anna grew up alone and isolated, because her sister Elsa was cursed. So she was like starved of attention and love starved. So she agreed to meet the first man that she met when she was like away from her parents, and he betrayed her. So Princess Jasmine, she was a prisoner in her own castle, and she fell in love with a Dusty also. And he kept lying to her about everything. And she became a slave to Jafar. Like, y'all, I can't make this stuff up. Rapunzel, she was kidnapped by a lady because she wanted her powers from her hair, I guess to keep her young. And she was locked away with that lady forever until she grew up. And her only friend was a frog. Cinderella, I loved Cinderella. Cinderella, she was a slave to her stepmother and her stepsisters, and they were jealous of her because she was beautiful. And we never got to meet her daddy, so I'm guessing the daddy just abandoned the whole family. He was probably somewhere with another woman while they were in his house torturing his daughter. So I'm guessing he didn't care about her or them. like why are y'all hating on this girl? Like, Mulan, she was actually left to die in the snow when they figured out that she was a woman. So y'all, I don't know how y'all are saying that we were brainwashed by Disney movies. Like, and then when they went on to have their life with these so-called princes, we don't know the story, what happened to them when they got these princes. We don't know if these princes had like a whole bunch of wives or not. They ended right there. He saves her, they get married, and that's it. They don't go into the life of these ladies because we know 9 times out of 10 it wasn't good. So y'all, I don't know what else to say about this princess lady. If she feels like that she's being treated like a princess and she's not being abused, I think that some of the comments were getting to her because she cut off her comments under all of her videos, and I couldn't share any of her videos, so that's why I just shared the stitches. Y'all get down in the comment and let me know what y'all thought about this video. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I will talk to you ladies later. Bye.